Tonight's show, folks, is dedicated, sincerely, to all of those people who understand that eternal vigilance and sometimes great personal sacrifice is still the price of freedom, and that without the vigorous pursuit of this individual responsibility of citizenship, even Americans will not forever remain a free people. It is also dedicated to all of those citizens who have not yet considered these things in the hope that they will be inspired. I firmly believe that any man or woman without principles that they are ready and willing to die for at any given moment that such sacrifice is required are already dead and are of no use or consequence to anyone. This country was founded upon a great idea which we are going to discuss a little later in this program. That great idea was the motivation for the writing of the Declaration of Independence and for the formation of the Constitution of the United States of America, and then later the first 10 amendments to that Constitution, which are known as the Bill of Rights. The story of our Constitution is a story about freedom, especially individual freedom. It is a story, folks, to remind us of how a great people struggled and sacrificed to set themselves free from the tyranny of excessive government. The great price they paid and the difficulties they faced in securing that freedom for all posterity. It is a story that explains the reasons for the rapid rise of a freedom-loving people to the greatest among all nations. A rise made possible because the people were, indeed, free to create it. Finally, it is the story of how some of those freedoms eventually began to slip away, very slowly and subtly, of how the citizens' sensitivity to those lost freedoms became dulled, of how we began to change our ideas about liberty of the individual versus a powerful central government, and of how we lost our understanding of the Founding Fathers' ideas on liberty, because somebody forgot to teach us these things in the homes, the churches, the public schools, and colleges. While I cannot here make up for the educational void, folks, I do hope to help generate special interest in our Constitution during this program and the programs to follow over the months and hopefully years. I have attempted to identify and talk and write about the major philosophical concepts underlying our Constitution and the great principles included in it. Where these great ideas came from and how they were formulated into what Sir William Gladstone, the eminent English statesman, has called, quote, the most wonderful work ever struck off at a given time by the brain and purpose of man, unquote. Our Constitution is ageless because it is a living Constitution. It is not just some old document struck off 200 years ago by doting old men who don't understand the problems of the modern world. For those men understood and knew that they could not foresee all of the problems and all of the possibilities of such a great people for the future. So they included within the document its ageless properties, its very life, the ability for it to outlive them and their posterity, and indeed live forever. For within the document itself are the means with which to amend it, according to the procedures and only those procedures outlined within the Constitution. And they created these procedures within the document to be slow acting, so that no change could be brought about at the spur of the moment through emotional distress or through error, and that no small body called Congress could bring about these changes on their own, and no executive or judicial branch could do it on their own, but it had to have the consideration and the consent of the whole people. The whole people. For our forefathers, the founders of this great nation, would only trust their liberties to the whole people. It all started with the Declaration of Independence.